Welcome back, everybody, to the Boxscore Sports Podcast. I am your host, Ryan, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about what in the world? Hold on one second. Oh, I see what I did there. We're going to talk about the NBA. Yep, my fault, guys. My fault on that. So we're going to be talking about the NBA. We're going to talk a little bit about AI's comments, and we're going to give our thoughts on whether we think he can score 43 points in today's day and age. We're also going to talk about Jokic's just powering through the league right now, the last couple games. Other NBA topics as well, contender pretenders, and to do that with me is Isaac. Isaac, how's it going, man?
What's up, Ryan? How you been?
Good. You look really snazzy today. I just want to mention.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I looked like that. I got my like little hoodie on that I have on every other show, and you
Hey,
just got like this nice little sweatshirt on.
you look good, bro.
Yeah, don't lie like that.
You look good, bro. I'm giving you a compliment. You gotta take it.
Yeah, yeah.
Look
Looks like I
good. Look at
just
the
got out
beard,
of.
though. The beard's all shaped up, and man,
I'm trying different things, man. I'm trying different things.
looking nice.
But yeah. I would say that if it looks like I just got out of bed, it might be because I just got out of bed. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay.
Hey,
Possibility.
I've had my days where I just rolled up out of bed and did the podcast. So looking good though, Ryan. Looking good. You look better than me when I roll out of bed. So if that's you looking like that, rolling out of bed, whew, I gotta
Okay,
step
I'll
my
take.
game up a little bit more, man.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay, man. You ready to talk about some NBA?
Absolutely. It's been a minute.
It looks like we got some
Oh
comments
yeah, girl
already,
on
though. Do you
fire.
want?
She's talking about the Chiefs that they won the Super Bowl. We didn't get a really chance to get her on the podcast when we were talking about the Super Bowl recap. So I think she's here to talk about the Chiefs. But we're talking NBA right now, girl on fire. But
But
I
you
don't.
were right.
Yeah,
You did predict the Chiefs to win, so good. Like good prediction. That was a good win for the Chiefs.
yeah, no. But yeah, I don't know where Rob is, but yeah, they won for sure. Definitely
Probably
won.
working, huh?
Yeah, Rob's been working a lot. Shout out to
Yeah.
Rob. Miss you,
Okay,
Rob.
man. Yeah, we miss you. More Isaac than I because I miss you too, Rob. I won't lie. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and talk NBA. Let's talk first about this because I thought it was a good conversation because sometimes you get like the players that some consider like old heads. They'll talk about the modern day NBA and some of the um struggles that of watching the NBA. One of the struggles is the lack of defense. Um, and AI mentioned, I think it was on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, he mentioned on a podcast that he thought he could average 43 points per game in today's NBA. And I thought it'd be a good topic, and we'll just see where it takes us from here. So, Isaac, your thoughts? Do you think AI could average 43 in today's NBA?
Absolutely.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Absolutely. He played in an era where people play defense. This is an
Mm-hmm.
era where offense, is more seen throughout the regular season than there was in other eras. So absolutely, I think AI could definitely drop 43. AI would be going to the line a lot, and I think AI has that always had that ability or capability to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. So he wasn't like a great 3-point shooter, but if he was in this era where the three obviously matter, I'm pretty sure AI would definitely have a good 3-point shot if he was in this era. Like trainers would be training. I mean, you see big men now today. Big men are way better shooters than they were back in those times. So AI was a guard and a nasty guard at that. So absolutely, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, so I agree with most everything you said. I don't know if he'd average. So I was just looking up his averages when he played. His most points he ever averaged in a season is 33 points. And usually my rule of thumb, you add like 5 to 6 points to that. So like I always said this about Michael Jordan. He could average 43 a year, and his highest average points per game was 37. So that would be like 5 to 6 points. I think AI could get close to 40. I don't know if he could do 40, but I think then we're splitting hairs a little bit. I do agree with you to the extent that the defense is easier. The floor spacing would mean so much more to him because of the way he could always get to the basket and finish. I think his handles would be so much better in today's NBA because of what he could get away with. In like with the carrying, he'd learn how to euro step, he'd learn how to do all these things that back in the day that weren't being taught or that people thought were like travels and stuff like that. So I do agree to the extent of like I think he'd get close to 40. I don't know if he'd get to 43, but I would give him 40 for sure. I think he could totally get 40 points per game at least one season in his career.
I mean, he averaged 33 in 06, 31.2 in 07. He
Hmm.
averaged 31.4 in 02, 31.1 in 01, and 28.4 in 2000. And that was, like I said, back in the days where people actually played defense. So, and the three ball wasn't really, you couldn't shoot 15 threes a game, Ryan, back then. So, if he was in this era, he dropped over 30 back then
Yeah.
numerous times. That's only
Hmm.
13 more points he had to average, and that's not being a consistent 3-point shooter at that. So I think he could if he was in this era. If he was in this era, all he was doing was shooting threes, plus him attacking, because AI was an attacker and a slasher. So adding that to his game, adding a good 3-pointer to AI's game, oh man, he'd be
So
he'd
let,
be
let-
he'd be he'd be scoring all over the place.
so who do you think gets at the rim better? Like if you had to say like through their careers, whether would you say Kyrie or would you say AI?
I'd say Kyrie has a better handle than AI does, but it's tough because AI could dunk.
Hmm.
So I would give the nod to Allen Iverson just based on that athleticism alone. But I mean, if you look at how Kyrie does, Kyrie kind of implements his game to AI as well. Sort of. You know what I'm saying? Like the way he attacks to the rim. So, you know, you give Allen Iverson, but dunking though, that's where I would have to give it more to Allen Iverson. Especially in this era, he'd be drawing fouls all the time, bro.
And no lie. So the reason why I bring that up is because so for Kyrie Irving, his highest points per game he's ever averaged in a season is 27.4. Um, and I guess to me, if I had to compare a game style similar to what I see AI playing as, it would be Kyrie. But I agree with you. I think that AI was a better scorer.
Mm-hmm.
Although like if you look at the efficiency numbers, AI is less efficient than Kyrie. I think that has to do with the era they grew up in. And if you
Right.
look at like the teammates that AI had, none of them could score. It was
Right.
always on
It was
him to
always
do
on
it.
AI, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I say I think he could average 10 more points to get to like 15, 20 a game more, almost more than Kyrie. That's a lot. So again, it's splitting hairs. It's a good topic. It's a good debate, but I don't know if he'd get to 43. I think he could get to 40, 40, 39, 40 points. But it would be interesting. It's a good conversation.
Yeah.
I just think like 43, that's Michael Jordan. 45, that's
Well, it
Michael
it also
Jordan's.
goes to what team he plays on too. If he plays on the
Yeah,
Sixers
true.
now, I think he could because look at Tyrese Maxey on the Sixers. If you swap Tyrese Maxey for prime AI, you don't think AI is dropping 50 a game?
It's just hard to do that day in, day out. Let's see. So what's
I
Maxi
don't
averaging,
know.
you know?
Maxey dropped 50 a couple of times. I'm not saying
Yeah,
he would
I think
average 50, but Allen
no, I agree
Iverson,
with that. I would
Allen
agree with that.
Iverson is
Yeah.
is is I don't know. He's taking it over. He's taking the game over. That's
No,
just his style of play.
so Maxi right now is averaging 26 points a game on about the same efficiency that AI would average. And then a little better 3-point shot, obviously, which we talked about. Like it just wasn't a thing back in the day. So
Right.
again, like 15 more points than Maxi averages, I could see it. Almost 20 points, that's kind of a lot. I think he would definitely put up a lot more 50 points than Maxi would for sure.
Right.
Um, so again, it's we're splitting hairs a little bit, right? Like, but it's a good debate. Like, could he get that extra 3 points or not? I don't know if he would be able to. You're on board with it, but I would love to see someone like AI come into the league and just like
Man,
just if you
it's just unfortunate, with the eras, you know what I'm saying?
yeah
Like,
yeah
I'm pretty sure AI would have a really good 3-point shooter or have a really great 3-point shot if he was in this era because it would be it would be needed in his game, like training and practice and all this other stuff. They would have to like get him to be an elite 3-point shooter because that's what you need in today's game. You need to if you can't shoot, man, you're not succeeding in this era.
yeah.
So I think AI would implement that into his game, having a
I
good three
agree.
point shot. So who's to say he wouldn't because he's going to the line every time. So
Mhm.
those are buckets. You look at SGA, and he's averaging 31 free throws a game.
I
So it's like
yeah.
everything's a
Isn't it crazy
foul.
with SGA? Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I just think with the spacing, especially in AI's finishing, it's just like how, and that's the thing though, is like if he sat by the 3 point line too much, you're kind of taking what made him so great away from him, which is attacking the basket. So I still see him as like attacking the basket more.
Right,
But yeah, I think you're right. He'd get more foul calls. Like Damian Lillard gets a ton of foul calls, right? And he's
right.
not as good as attacking the basket. He'd have to learn to flail like all the ones who gets fouls fit flail all the time. But yeah, I'm with him at as far as like getting up to 40. I think he could average close to 40 a season. 43, I don't know, a little rich. So, okay, if you think AI could average 43, let's say points per game in this era, how much would you give someone like a Michael Jordan then?
Uh, it's tough.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, probably the same.
Oh, you don't think he'd average more?
Reason being is because of the other players that surrounded Mike. You know what I'm saying? It really all depends on who, like, what team. If Michael's all by himself with no help, then yeah, I would say Michael would take over and just score all the time. But people underestimate Michael Jordan's passing ability too. Where Mike was a very good point guard too. People forget that. Like he was a good passer, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say it'd be around the same if he was in today's NBA, just depending on the team that he's on. Where if it's just AI and Embiid, if you put AI on the Sixers team now, yeah, I think he would. I think Embiid would need that help. As taking the scoring load off of Embiid, and I think they would both be averaging like over 30, 35. For sure. But if you put Michael on the Bulls now, then yeah, Michael's dropping like probably 45, 46 again because the Bulls ain't that good. But and if you surround him with Pippen and all them, I don't think so. You know. I think he'd average like maybe like 33, 34 maybe. He'd average more than what he did in his era.
Yeah, so he averaged 1 year 37, 35. With Pippen and the Bulls, he averaged 33. He averaged 32 1 year with Pippen.
Hmm.
Um, so 30 with Pippen and Rodman.
Yeah, so I'd say about the same that AI's saying. I think he'd
Okay.
average like 40, 43 then.
Mm. Yeah.
But I don't
Okay.
think I don't
Okay.
think more.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah,
Gotcha. I think
he'd
he,
average more than his in Chicago what he averaged in that era for sure.
right.
Because it's an
Yeah.
offensive. He'd be going to the line a lot too. So
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think Jordan would average probably 45 in our era. Just the way he attacks the basket, his athleticism, but he can score on all phases of the floor, right? Like he's got the post moves, he could shoot the three when he wanted to. Like
yeah,
that's and like we talked about, it would be something that like he would have worked more on, just like AI. And just being bigger and taller than AI, that would work to his favor as well, considering that this league is built on forwards now, and not so much guards. I think someone like Jordan would thrive in this. But yeah, it's sort of interesting topic because of the floor spacing. When you have people that attack the basket so well back in the day when the floor spacing was like this,
Right.
how would they do with the floor spacing when it's more open? I think like we both could agree that AI and MJ would both probably average. They would have had a season where they would have at least approached 40 or got over 40 in the era
Yeah, I
that
think
we're
they
we're
would,
seeing
and I
today.
think like
Yeah.
Larry Bird and them too would probably average 40 a game as well. Just
Okay.
based on like they're just good scorers. But
Do you think that Larry Bird is too unselfish to do that though?
no, because he was a 3-point shooter when 3-point shooting really wasn't a thing back then. Nobody would take threes. So you allow Larry Bird to jack up 23s a game. Man, Larry Bird's not missing a lot. He'll probably miss maybe like two or three. Give him 23s to shoot. He's making those. But yeah, like Larry Bird's a great unselfish player as well. But I don't know. I think Larry Bird would just be too lethal given to the way it is now. I think he'd be
See,
too lethal. He'd take advantage of it.
yeah, to me, Larry Bird would almost be like a Jokic light, like because he's just not as big as Jokic, is what I mean.
Right.
Where like he's just so good at passing the ball. He had seasons where he averaged almost 7 to 8 assists a game. Um, he in his career he never got over the 30 points per game threshold. But
Yeah,
you're
I thought he
right with
did
the three.
average 30.
I'm looking at it right now. He had okay, one season in 87 he had 29.9.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's the one it was. Yeah.
yeah. So you were almost right. It was
Man,
a
I thought he
point
did average
off.
30.
Yeah. So he would obviously average more in a 3-point era. I don't know if he would take again, he wouldn't be I don't know if he'd be selfish enough to average 23s a game. You think of Curry. Curry doesn't even average 30, 23s a game. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
there is that part of it that we'd have to consider as well.
Sure.
Um, but I do think that Larry would thrive. Like I just think it's so much easier for offensive players nowadays. Is the thing. People talk about well, people are bigger, more athletic, but you just can't do as much. So it's easier. And then if you paired him with someone like AI and AI attacks the basket and finds Bird open in the corner for three, like how often will that be open? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it again, Larry, Magic. Magic didn't have the shot, but man, a 6'9" point guard, like that would be amazing to have. We see how LeBron, he doesn't really have a shot outside of 3 feet from the basket. He's not very consistent, and look how he thrives. Magic
Yeah.
Johnson would thrive too. So
You
yeah,
think
it's
so? Like, to touch back on the Magic Johnson thing, couldn't shoot. Don't you think that's kind of like a Ben Simmons now? Ben Simmons is 6'10", can pass, great, dunk, he's athletic, but he can't shoot. You think Magic Johnson would survive in this era?
I think so. So I'd have to. Well, okay. So this would be a good topic where I could do some prep work. I would have to see what his shooting was outside because he wasn't afraid to shoot the ball. That's what hurts Ben Simmons.
Right.
Ben Simmons is afraid to shoot the ball. So his last 4 years as a Laker, he shot over 30% from threes. Again, in an era, 1 year he shot 38% from three. He shot
So,
32% and
so you're just saying like the
37% three.
work ethic of Magic Johnson, if they had to, like you're saying in this era where you have to shoot, Magic Johnson would put in the work to get better at shooting. Is what you're
Correct.
saying? Yeah.
And he's not, yeah, and he's not afraid to shoot, right? Like that's the big thing with Ben Simmons is he doesn't shoot because partly he's afraid to shoot the ball. Like I don't get it. But so I guess my point would be I think he'd be fine in this league because people would have to guard him. He would be more of like a Draymond Green type than a Ben Simmons type, but a better
Hmm.
version of Draymond Green, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that I do think that there are some players that played back in the day that wouldn't play as much now. Just like I feel like there's some players that play now that wouldn't be able to play back in the day. That's just sort of the way it works. But there are those who are just the top of their era that just you could put them in any era and they would learn to thrive in that era.
Right. Well, like Kobe,
AI,
for example, like touch base on like the Michael Jordan thing. I mean, Kobe kind of played in this era. I mean, I know it
mhm.
was in the ending of his career, but like it's the same thing with Kobe. You think Kobe's averaging 43 points per game in his career in this era
Yeah.
in his prime?
So Kobe got to 35. Yeah, I think he could get up there. He could get up there, and he had more of a. It wasn't that he couldn't pass the ball, but he couldn't like Michael, like you said, is underrated passer. Like
Yeah,
Kobe had the scorer's mentality. Like he was just
yeah,
going to take things. He was going to take your lunch money, but he was going to do it by himself. So I think he would be more than likely to average like 43 points like season to season than someone like maybe Michael Jordan, just because Michael Jordan was, like you said, a little bit more willing of a passer than
right.
Kobe was. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I think anybody in those eras that played in the defensive era would thrive in this era. Just based on just scoring and the leniency of offense and how much the 3-pointer is needed. I feel like any of those guys, any of those Hall of Fame guys back in them days would thrive in this era. It's just silly to say that they wouldn't or that they wouldn't score as much as what he's saying. Those guys were killers, man. They were all good scorers, and that's what we fell in love with the game. And that's like what them scoring as much as they did back in those times in a defensive era is the reason why we have the players that we have today in today's game. Everybody emulated these guys that were before them. So, you know,
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, there are some like I don't like could I'm trying to think like Alonzo Mourning, right?
hmm
Like he still would be okay in this league, but I don't think he makes as big as an impact, right? Because he's a
hmm,
rim protector. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Clint Capella, like he's a really good rim protector, but he didn't have a shot. He'd have a very a lesser role in today's NBA than he did in the 90s because not as many people there's more 3 points, right? So there's not a lot of people attacking the basket like before, and that's where Alonzo Mourning like would just be this shot erasing. You come to the rim, I'm going to block you type of guy. Where in today's NBA, we don't see that much anymore because of the
so what
lack
about so
of
what about Shaq? You don't think
Shaq would be
Shaq?
fine.
You think so? Even without a shot or anything?
Yeah, the thing with Shaq though is
Because Shaq
like
doesn't space the floor. Shaq's down in
at
that
all.
paint all the
Mm-mm.
time. So
So like Rudy Gobert comes to mind, but he's way better of a post player than Rudy Gobert, right? Like so he would be able to get up, especially if it's early years Shaq, like the athleticism that Shaq had coming up and down the court. I think he would just dominate the paint on the offensive side of the ball. And he also, when he was in Orlando, like in his first couple of years as a Laker, he
mm,
could guard the perimeter well enough where you couldn't because he was super athletic. People people forget that about him because as he aged, he got bigger and less athletic and he couldn't move
right.
as quickly. So I think it would be more important for him to stay in shape in this era. Like he
Yeah, he would
couldn't
really
go
have to
all
listen to
that.
Kobe then about staying in
Yeah,
shape and getting in the
right,
gym. But that's what I'm saying.
right.
What if I'm looking at it as like Shaq's mentality as he got older? You think he wouldn't have really? You think he would just have like maybe like 4 good years in him, or four to 5 good years?
Probably like
You know what I'm saying? Like
five
he wouldn't
to
have
five to
like the
eight.
career. I don't think
Yeah.
Shaq would have had the career that he had based in this era. Is what I'm saying. He'd probably have like 3 to 4 good years, and then we wouldn't hear from him anymore. He wouldn't have
Yeah,
a
I
Hall
think
of Fame career.
he'd have eight so I'm just looking at the numbers here. He'd have like 8 good years because then he started to let himself go. But the question is though, right? Like once he saw he needed, like he didn't need to, like he was so dominant, he didn't need to worry about his
Right.
shape, his athleticism as much. as he would need to in this era. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
then like so would that drive him then to be like, okay, well actually I do need to stay in shape. Like you said, would he listen to someone like Kobe more or whatever just so
Right.
that he could last in the league longer? I think that's a hundred
And
percent a possibility.
and that's what a lot of people forget in like these types of debates is like you got to understand like are we talking about are they still going to have that arrogant mindset that they had in their early careers or would they be willing to change and adapt to the new way that the NBA is being constructed today? You know, and that's the thing. Would Shaq put in the work to get his free throw up? Would Shaq put in the work to get a high 3-point rating? And you know what I'm saying? Like it's those types of things that people forget to take into consideration when they're talking about eras and how these different players would be in these different eras. You know?
Right. Correct. And the thing is like when you're humbled, it's easier to let go of your like pride or your arrogance, right?
Right.
So like if Shaq is finding himself out of shape and he's not as dominant, he'd be humbled. So
Right.
would he take that and then let that drive him to stay in shape? I think it would, but he was so good and he didn't have to be in shape necessarily in the era he played. So what motivated him to stay in shape? Well,
Right.
nothing, right? So yeah, I don't think he'd ever develop a shot. But again, like we see players in today's league that doesn't shoot the ball very well, and they have a good role, like Gobert or Jalen Duren. Are two guys who come to mind. Walker Kessler is another guy
Yeah.
that comes to mind. So they're Nick Claxton. So there's people like that, and I think he would be like the best one to do that. Like if he was in this league. So
Right.
yeah. But again, just an interesting conversation.
It is.
Okay, man, you ready to go on to our next topic? We'll talk about actual NBA news of today's NBA.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do. So our first topic we're going to talk about is Jokic because Jokic has been on a tear lately since the All-Star break.
Man.
He has basically averaged over a triple double, like basically 15, 15, and 15 rebounds, 15 assists, and almost like 27 points. He is just tearing it up the last couple games. Including against the Warriors, where he had 32, 16, and 16. Give us your thoughts on Jokic, his domination so far.
Unbelievable, man. Can you believe this is the same guy that got picked during I forgot, was it a Burger King commercial or something?
Hmm.
Man,
Something like that, yeah.
that's insane. Like it just shows like how the big man, I mean, we were just talking about Shaq, like it just shows how different the big man is played today in today's era.
Hmm.
You know, the passing, the shooting, and Jokic can still dominate and use his size to attack the paint as well and play it like what a big man is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that's just it's just unbelievable what he's doing, man. And the Nuggets are 39-19. They're they could go back to the finals, man, and repeat. That's just how scary Jokic has been playing lately and the way the Nuggets are playing and all those years that the Nuggets didn't make a deep playoff run was based off of Murray's, injury. Like Jokic needs that point guard that can help take some pressure off of him and that can shoot the ball.
Yep.
Their 2-man game is unbelievable, man. Their pick and rolls amazing, pick and pop, whatever they need to do, to get other players involved as well, because everybody's focused on them two, on their pick and pop or their pick and roll, whatever they're doing. And it gets other people like Michael Porter Jr. open, or it gets Aaron Gordon free, Caldwell Pope. And it just fits their style of play as a team, based off them too. And that's what Jokic always needed, or else the Nuggets would have been, I think, in the finals years ago if Murray never got hurt those years. So that's a big factor that we keep forgetting too. We forget how dominant Murray is for them. Murray's
Yeah,
a huge help.
100%. I would say though, like part of the growing process for Jokic was he understood he's not in like, you know, peak shape, like
Right.
like a model shape. But he knew, like year after year, he got more and more in shape, understanding he need to in order to survive the playoffs.
Right.
So it's interesting how he has shaped his career based off of his failures, and now he's succeeding at like the highest level. And what I love, like I guess not love, but when we were talking last week, right, about like our way too early playoff predictions, our way too early final prediction.
Mhm.
This is part of the reason why I picked the Nuggets to still make the finals. It's just like that guy, like 3 nights in a row, he not in a row, but three games in a row, he just basically went, 30, 15, and 15. It's like who can stop that? Who can stop that? And I don't think there's any team that really can stop him. And like you said, if those other guys are going along with him and you got the pick and roll and the pick and pop and the screen setting here and there, dude, I just don't know how anyone's going to stop the Nuggets. Jokic is like just a beast in this game right now, and I don't see anyone stopping him for 4 straight games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, the only two teams that you can think of that could stop the Nuggets are the two teams that are leading the West right now, and that's the Timberwolves and the Thunder. But how much faith
Yeah,
do you have in them guys to stop this team? And the Nuggets are the only team out of them two, or out of those three teams that got the experience. They're the defending champs for a reason. So, it's really going to be interesting to watch and see how the Thunder and the Timberwolves can battle if they make that deep playoff run. Because one of them's going to meet them before the Western Conference Finals. The other
yeah,
one's going to possibly meet them in the Western Conference Finals. So that's going to be the key factor. But the Thunder, man, they look good. That Chet
yeah.
Holmgren, SGA, I don't know, man. We gotta. The only problem is we haven't seen them go far, so that's our only question mark. But the only way to gain that experience is you go in and you make a deep playoff run. That's the only way we can, you know, undoubt that doubt that we have for those two young teams. They got to get there. And the only
No,
way you
I
get there is you
mhm.
got to win games. Get there.
Correct. And the concern about the Thunder to me is especially going up against the Nuggets is Chet's tall and long, but he's what 150 pounds soaking wet. He's like
He's
he's
skinny.
a he's a yeah he's a toothpick compared to Jokic.
Oh
So
yeah,
Jokic
Jokic
is
is
just
gonna.
gonna push him around.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one concern I have. The other concern is SGA is not going to get the amount of foul calls in the playoffs that he's getting right now. So if and we know this because it happens to Harden, it happened to Trae Young, it happened to other guys as well. In the league that go into the playoffs and they have all these foul calls and they just don't get them like in the playoffs like they do in the regular season. So that's my concern for the Thunder. I think the Timberwolves is the team that if I'm a playoff team other than those two teams, the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, I'm hoping that the Nuggets and Timberwolves meet each other before the Western Conference Finals so that the Timberwolves can knock them off or the Nuggets can knock the other one off and then just have to deal with one of those teams in the finals. That's what I'm kind of hoping.
Right. Yeah. Based on that though, based on that analysis that you're saying is because you're saying like Gobert you think can hang with Jokic in the paint or Carl Anthony Towns.
He has the best chance to. I don't think anyone can. Let's be
Right.
clear. Maybe like, but he has the best chance to. And it's like you said, they also have. Don't they have like Nas Reed on their roster or something like that? So they have. Who do they
Yeah. The,
have? They
the
have
Timberwolves
another.
are big.
Yeah.
They're
So
they're they got
so
size for sure.
right. So that's the point is you just need as many big guys to throw at Jokic. So whether it's Gobert, you throw Towns at him a little bit, you throw I think it's Reed. I'm just gonna double check. I know they have another center on their
Towns has
roster
been
that
killing it this
yeah,
year, man.
yeah.
Like
Naz
Towns has
Reed.
been getting buckets. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yes. That's what I'm saying. So, like, if you get those three guys, like, just rotating on Jokic, just give him a different look every so often, I think that the Timberwolves are big enough to handle the Nuggets. Now, will they beat the Nuggets? I'm not
In
sure,
a
but
four
they
in
can
a
at
seven
least.
game series, yeah.
Right, correct. I'm not sure, but I will say that the Timberwolves, to me, have the best roster equipped to handle Jokic in the Western Conference. So
Let me see who else is in. What about the Clippers? You think the Clippers could hang with the Nuggets at all? No, you think they're
no,
getting smoked
I
if
think
they were to meet them
no,
in the playoffs?
I think they can hang with the Nuggets. I just don't think they'll be because they're like Zoo, Plumlee. I don't know. Although Plumlee actually gives Jokic fits, but I don't know. It's hard for me to see them stopping Jokic for 4 games because that's the goal. So I could see them getting 2 games, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I'd interested in Luke's take on it, but he's going to have a little bit of bias for the Clippers. But I would say, like, to me, they're just not, their centers are just not good enough to handle Jokic because then they also have to go on the offense end. And that's where, like, if you have Plumlee or Zoo out there on the offense end, then you're sacrificing scoring a little bit. I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about the Clippers right
Well,
now.
the Clippers, they kind of slowed down a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
they were the hottest team start since December. But I'm just trying to look at their head-to-head matchups this year. Um, I know they played. Yeah, the Clippers have beaten the Nuggets. They beat them on the 6th.
Hmm.
Um, they beat them. Let me see if they played in November. No, they lost in the in-season tournament. They lost by 3 to them. And then they lost 113-104. So I don't know if the in-season tournament thing counts, but um, you think that counts as far as like head-to-head matchups this year, or not really?
The problem is I know one of those games that
Because right now
Jokic and
they're one
Murray,
and one.
right? One of those games Jokic and Murray didn't play, and that was the one they lost to the
Oh, then
Nuggets.
that's even worse.
Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan
Yeah,
had like
they wanted that
prime
revenge.
performances.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
wanted
that's
that
right. Yeah.
revenge. Well, hey,
So,
we'll talk about this on the 5th of April. It'll be a TNT game, 9 o'clock p.m., and we'll see who's, because that's right before the playoffs about to start. So we're gonna see who's in tip top shape.
yeah, no, that's a good point. We'll see how that works. I would say like didn't so Sabonis last night. I'm just trying to look at the because like I felt like
Because the
Sabonis
game
had
that they won,
17,
Jokic and Murray both played. So I mean,
right? So think about Sabonis, right?
yeah.
Last night the Clippers lost to the Kings, had 12 assists and 15 rebounds. 7 of them were offensive rebounds on the Clippers.
Mm.
Sabonis is not in Jokic's level, right? So if they have a hard time handling Sabonis with Zoo and Plumlee and Tice on the floor, how do you think they're
I
going
mean,
to do
Sabonis had a
against
triple double. That's Jokic like,
yeah,
you
so
know.
I just have a hard time seeing Zoo and Plumlee. Plumlee didn't play, to be clear, yesterday, but
Right.
Zoo and Tice or whatever the case may be is just going to have a hard time with Jokic. I just see it as being very
Well,
difficult.
this is the problem, and this is what I'm always gonna. This is what I told Luke too. Is James Harden's shooting is so
Mhm.
garbage.
At time, yeah,
Where I mean, Paul George didn't play either,
yeah, right.
so I mean, there's that as well. But see, that's what I'm saying is like Paul George or Kawhi Leonard's not feeling it, and you got to rely on James Harden. That is a recipe for disaster, man. You
Especially
know,
in the playoffs. Yeah,
especially in the playoffs. Like, their best bet is just James Harden just be the facilitator, man. He can't be jacking up 13 and shooting 10 threes. That's just not gonna, win you ball games, So, um, and Westbrook didn't play that great last game either. So, there's that as well. Where James Harden got it for the key for the Clippers heading into the playoffs is James Harden got to, facilitate that ball, man, and just stick to that ball, and let Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, handle it. As far as the scoring load goes.
yeah,
Because I just don't trust, and I feel like that's going to be the Clippers' downfall. Is James Harden's going to shoot him out of a lot of games, man. I think James Harden still got that mentality where he thinks he's still the James Harden of old, He's gonna start jacking up threes and think he can just dribble, ISO. You're gonna be seeing that in the playoffs, man. I'm telling you, that's just how he is when it comes to playoff time. James Harden, you're gonna be seeing a lot of ISO ball, and that's what's gonna hurt them in the end, I think.
Yeah, and so like just to go back to the original point, so like for
Right.
you with the Nuggets, with the James Harden factor, with the factor that like someone like Sabonis can get a triple double on him, 7 offensive rebounds, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I
Like, do
mean,
you really, I mean, how do you feel about them being able to stop someone like the Nuggets and
no,
Jokic?
I was just asking, to see like you think the Clippers could, as far as like, just throwing them in there because I mean the Clippers have been playing good. I mean they slowed
Yeah.
down like I said. I was just throwing the Clippers in there as just another team that could possibly contend with them. I'm not saying the Clippers would beat them in a 7-game series.
Okay. Yeah. That no. That and I agree with you. I
Right.
think they can push the Nuggets. I don't think
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna.
I think they
Yeah. I don't think they'll
could.
beat. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think they could beat them in a 7-game series if they were to meet them. That's what I'm saying. It
Hmm.
really all
Right.
depends on how the seeding ends too.
Correct.
And where and when the Clippers meet them. If
Correct.
you're a Clippers fan, you want to meet them in the Western Conference or not at all. You would hope they would
Right.
play like a Thunder or the Minnesota Timberwolves first.
Right.
So it all goes down to that too. Because if I feel like if the Clippers were to meet the Timberwolves in the second round, they were to finish fourth and meet the Timberwolves in the second round. I don't think the Clippers are even going to be, in the Western. I think the Timberwolves will beat them.
Hmm. No.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's going to be fun to watch it all unfold, right? That's the
right,
thing is like, and we're gonna. I don't like. Do you think so? Like, there's what 25 games or less left for most teams, right?
yeah,
Do you think we're going to learn a lot in the next 25 games, or do you think there are some teams out there that's going to kind of like, okay, we're in the playoffs, let's just kind of coast
yeah. I think there's
along
going to be
here?
a lot of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a long 82 game season. That most
Yeah.
teams are going to be like that. But if you're the Clippers, I think you're going to want. I think seeding's going to matter for you. If you're the
Hmm.
Clippers, because based on those matchups, like who do you want to see first? Do you want to take your money on Minnesota, or do you want to take your money going up against Jokic in the second round? And if I'm the Clippers, I mean, I would prefer the Timberwolves. Just based on their lack of experience. But I don't like I told you, I don't even think the Clippers could get through Minnesota.
The problem with, and I was telling Luke this, but and Luke brought up a good point too. Like a lot of teams that are good are long and athletic, but there's also a lot of bad teams that are long and athletic. But like the Clippers seem to struggle with long athletic teams like
Yeah,
the Thunder and Timberwolves. Like I think it's because one of the biggest advantage the Clippers have is they have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, who are long and athletic. Well, if you put a long athletic guy on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, it kind of neutralizes a little bit the long athleticism that they have. So
right.
I think that's part of the struggle. But
I think
yeah,
the
I'm with.
Clippers' best bet is to claim that first seed in the West.
Mm,
I think that's their best bet. Making a deep playoff run is they're only 2.5 games, so it's doable. You know, the Timberwolves could lose a couple games here and there. You know what I'm saying? And maybe Denver might not care as much because they feel like they're the complete team out the West. So you know what I'm saying? So it might give them maybe some leeway where they might just stay at the third seed or the fourth seed. Where they'll just be like, we don't really care. Because I feel like Denver doesn't care where they end up. They're just like, man, I know
right,
nobody wants to face us
right.
mentality. I know that's what they have. So Denver doesn't necessarily need the number one seed, but I'm just saying for the Clippers' sake, or like Minnesota or OKC, I think seeding does matter. Where you're gonna want to win your games heading into the second half of the season. So I think Clippers. If you're a Clippers fan, Luke, you want that number one seed. That's
Yeah.
going to
So
be very, very important for the Clippers.
let me ask you this though. Do you think they should be focused more on the number one seed? Or the way that seeding's top four are plays out right now, it's Minnesota,
Right.
Thunder, Nuggets, and Clippers. So if you're the Clippers, out of those other three teams, Nuggets, Thunder, Timberwolves, what team do you want to play in the second round?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'd rather play Minnesota. You know what I'm saying?
Over the Thunder? Or would you rather have the Thunder?
Uh, it's tough. I don't. I think they're both young. So if you're the Clippers, I don't think either one would matter. I just wouldn't want to face Denver in the
Right.
first round or the second round. You know, if you want to play Denver, you want to just meet them when it matters, you know, at the end, you know, like the Western Conference. You know, you want to
Yeah.
make a deep playoff
So
run if you're the Clippers.
right. No, and I agree with that. So like for me, if I'm the Clippers, I'd rather have the Thunder. And the reason why I'd
Sure.
rather have the Thunder is because they're younger. And like we talked about before, is like Shea is not going to get all those foul calls
Yeah.
in the playoffs. So you have a better chance of beating them, in my opinion, in the second round than someone like the Timberwolves.
Only
So
reason
my
why I'd say the Timberwolves is I don't trust their point guard, Mike Conley. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
And I know Anthony Edwards is there and he's a dog, you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
I'd rather you know, you got James Harden playing defense on SGA
No, you put Kawhi on
or
SGA.
Kawhi on SGA, okay, but
Yeah, switch him
then
and
you put but that's what I'm saying as far as like, you know, the Thunder as far as them scoring, you know, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because if you got Kawhi on SGA, then you got, you know, James Harden. James Harden's a liability on defense regardless. You know what I'm saying? Where I'd like the matchup with Kawhi or Paul George taking taking Ant. You know what I'm saying? Because Mike Conley's a small defender. You know, you're putting James Harden now on a forward, you know, where I'm nervous about that. You know what I mean? As far as the scoring load goes. And
yeah,
Chet's still a bucket. Chet's gonna
yeah.
be a bucket. You're gonna probably need Kawhi down there to grab boards, you know. So it's like because SGA's gonna bring Kawhi out and ISO that every time. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna keep Kawhi away from the paint. You know, unless
Which is yeah, which is fine because like so when they played, I think this not this last time, but the time before, SGA tried to take Kawhi off the dribble, like at least one time, and Kawhi pinned it against the backboard. He like blocked him. Like
yeah.
I
And
don't think
Kawhi's a great
SGA.
defender. I know he would lock
Right,
him up, but I'm
right,
just saying
right.
like then you're putting a lot of, you know, you're getting your best defender in a lot of possible foul trouble situations. You know, because like you're saying, if you don't think SGA is gonna get calls, I don't know, man. Kawhi, that's gonna be a great matchup if that were to happen, because you would love to see like, you know, the no call happen, but at the same time, is the NBA
I'm
gonna be
based,
consistent as far as the foul calling for SGA heading into the playoffs?
but they never like I'm just going off based off of like past examples
Playoffs,
and yeah. So like Trey Young, James Harden, those guys got a ton of fouls. Luca gets a ton of fouls during the regular season. When he gets to the playoff time, they don't call as many
as
fouls.
much.
It just yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
sure,
I'm just basing that off the evidence we have in the past. So if they go
sure.
based off of what we've seen in the past, he's not going to get as many foul calls. Um, I also think the Timberwolves have the best chance to knock off the Nuggets because of how big they are. I don't
Right,
think
right,
they will, but I think they
right.
have the best
Best
chance.
chance,
So,
correct.
right. So if I'm the Clippers, I want the Timberwolves and Nuggets to play in the first round. So my goal, if the standings are the way they are, would almost to get in that 2-3 range. And then I would get like Phoenix the first round.
So you would want yeah, I see what you're saying. So you'd want the if you're the Thunder, you'd want or the Clippers, you would want like the third seed, you're saying, and let
Third, second
Denver
or
drop to
third
the
seed.
fourth.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That would be
whatever,
more my goal than
right?
getting the number one seed because if you got the number one seed the way it's lined up now, guess who you get in the second round? You get the Nuggets, right?
Sure.
So yeah,
Unless somehow, you know, the Thunder drop down, you know,
correct.
and
Yeah,
you
and
get
that's
the
why it's
Thunder. That's
like,
what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, you kind of see how it all plays out. But if we're just going based off of what we seen right now, I would rather have the 2-3 get the Thunder in the first round, let Minnesota, I mean the second round, I should say, and let the Timberwolves and the Nuggets battle it out in the second round, and hopefully
yeah,
get a more exhausted version of whatever team is coming out of the second round there.
right. Yeah, no,
That would be my goal.
how I think how it's gonna end up. I think the Clippers will get, you know, the number one seed in Denver, the second seed. To be honest with you, I think that's how it's gonna end.
Okay, you think
How the
Denver
West is
gets
gonna, yeah, and I think Minnesota will be the third, and OKC will be the fourth.
okay,
So,
and that would work out then, like
yeah, because
the
then it'd
same
be
way,
Denver,
right?
Minnesota second round. Yeah, I don't think Minnesota's gonna hold the number one seed when it's all said and done. You know, I mean, I hope so. I mean, for Minnesota's sake, And it's the same thing like I'm saying for the Clippers. If you're the Timberwolves, you want that number 1 seed locked.
Right.
You know, you want Denver to stay right there. You want to play the Clippers or whoever the second round, you know, because if you're Minnesota, I know Minnesota doesn't want to play Denver right away either, you know. So
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to even see if these teams will start doing that, like just like
right,
playing the standings instead of like playing the games. You know what I'm saying? Like oh, this is we should let Paul George and Kawhi and James Harden rest this game because we don't really want to win this game because we'd rather be in the 2 spot instead of the number 1 spot. You
sad
know,
that
it's
that's
stuff
how
like
the
that.
game has
Yeah.
come to be.
Yeah,
You know,
it
everybody's
is. It
afraid
is.
to
Yeah.
play everybody, you know. But I don't know. I don't think the Clippers
Because
are
you know,
necessarily afraid. You know, they got
yeah, but
4 Hall of Famers on their roster.
yeah, well, you know why that is though, is because we judge teams based on how far they get and not who they lose to.
Right.
That's why. It does like if the Denver Nuggets beat the Clippers in the second round and go on to win the finals, it's not that oh the Clippers lost to the NBA Finals champion in the second round.
It's because
It's
they didn't make
oh
a
the
deep playoff
Clippers,
run.
yeah, Clippers
Yeah.
didn't get out of the second round again this year. That's why it's all about that now. It's because the
Right.
way the media covers it. I've always been a guy is like I don't care when you lose, it's who you lose to. If you're the Buffalo Bills and you lose to the Kansas City Chiefs who win the Super Bowl, and you lost to him in the second round of the NFL playoffs, oh, that's
Right.
fine. Like,
Right.
okay, that's still a good go at it. But most people are like, oh, they didn't make the AFC Championship game, so something
Right.
must be wrong. It's
Not
like
like the Bucks losing to the 8 seed and you're the number 1 seed. You got the
correct,
best record in the whole NBA.
correct,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct.
I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
So yeah, so I just think like that, but that's now the way these NBA teams have trained their mindset. It's like, okay, how can we get the furthest in the playoffs? Because that's how we're going to be judged, not who we lost to.
Right.
Yeah. So it's sad to see it, but that's the way the media covers it. So that's the way the teams think about it because it's all about getting the best press that they can get.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about the next topic. Why don't we'll talk about the Bucks thing in a second, but because we were just talking about the Clippers and
Clippers,
the
yeah.
Nuggets and all that stuff, what
What's
did
up,
you
bro?
see their new uniforms?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. Um, you said they just dropped today.
Yeah, they just announced it today,
Yeah,
and I
that's.
wanted to get your thoughts on them.
Man, I like their old ones.
Yeah.
You know, it looks kind of plain, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just like everybody
Is that
has
gonna be
like
their new logo?
yeah, it's all oh yeah,
Is that the
I
new
like the logo.
logo?
Yeah, the logo looks cool. Yeah, exactly, Enzo. Lodo.
It's a ship.
Yeah, it looks sweet. Big because that's what a clipper is, yeah.
Wow.
I actually like it.
Really?
I like the logo. It's not a basketball. I'm tired of every stupid thing being a basketball, you know? Like every
Sure.
logo is a basketball nowadays. It's like, come on, like
Yeah, like the
let's
Lakers is a basketball.
yeah, the
It's not like the
Pistons are a
Lake.
basketball. It's like,
Pistons
come on.
are a basketball, yeah.
Yeah. Wizards, I think, are basketball now. So it's like, so I actually like this logo. The logo is cool. I don't know if I like the uniforms that much. I just, the colors too. It's like
Yeah,
red and,
yeah, it
I,
just looks
what,
plain.
yeah. Why couldn't they do I wish they would have went like orange, like orange and baby, like that baby blue those old powder blue uniforms that they had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the colors I was kind of hoping for. It's fine, but I don't know. Everybody has kind of like a red black scheme, or it's more like a darker blue. It looks like though, so I don't know. I like the logo though. That's
It's
pretty
gonna take
sweet.
some time to get used to that logo for sure.
Yeah.
Cause I don't know the Clipper logo. I don't know. It looked okay.
Yeah, I just like it's different. It's got a C around the ship that's kind of cool.
It just looks. You know what it
Um
looks like? It looks like a restaurant. Like if I'm about to go get some fish fry.
it's funny.
You know,
Well,
like
it
the
is a
boathouse
ship.
in
Yeah.
Wapaka. That's what it looks like.
Sure.
Like that. It looks like the boathouse logo.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I get you. I get you. Yeah. I don't know. I do like it though. I do like it. I like it. It's different.
Looks
It
like a
looks kind
cruise. Looks like a cruise logo.
sort of, right. And that's
Yeah.
what a clipper is, I think, a sailboat technically, but
Right.
so
I don't
but
know.
the uniforms themselves is just like I don't know. I wish they would have went a different color scheme. That's all.
Yeah. The uniforms are pretty plain.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's simple. Okay. Bucks sixth in defense since the coaching change. Did you know that
I
stat,
did
by the
not.
way?
That's actually a pretty interesting topic. You know, you would think that they would be winning more games with that defense being the sixth
Mm-hmm.
defense since Doc's been in there. You know, because they were so terrible when Adrian Griffin was their coach. But the difference is they were winning games with
Yeah.
that bad defense. So it's like kind of like, well, okay, our defense got upgraded, but yet we're still losing games. So what's the issue?
I still think it's just like you're implementing a new system. It's only been what 10 games, maybe a little less. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe give it a little bit more time, but it is interesting. Their defense did get better. And it
Yeah.
was even before they got Patrick Beverly, obviously. So
Right.
he's going to help with their defense a little bit as well. So I thought that was an interesting stat. They beat the 76ers last night, obviously without
Without Joel.
Embiid. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
So there is that part of it, but it's just it is sort of fascinating because like you said, when we're looking at the team play, it's like, man, how are they like losing this game or
Right.
how are they not a better team over like who did they recently almost lost to? Oh, they lost to Memphis on Thursday, like last Thursday.
Right.
Like, how do they lose to Memphis? How are they losing these games? And all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second, they beat the Timberwolves in Philadelphia the last two games. That's actually, pretty solid, and their defense has been much better the last couple weeks, which shows me that at least Doc is making a little bit of a change in Milwaukee. I don't know if the change will be for the better, but it looks like the defense is at least better.
Well, I'm gonna be fair with the Bucks is still the regular season, you
Yeah.
know, and I think the Bucks are gonna be there. You know, I would love to see a Celtics Bucks Eastern Conference. I don't want to see Miami.
Oh, sure.
Um, you know, but you know, I feel like, you know, a lot of people are, you know, we have been overreacting with them. I mean, the losses are very questionable, like losing to Memphis. Like you can't lose those games, man. Those are
Hmm.
should be automatic dubs for
Right.
teams like the Bucks, you know, and
Yeah.
the Celtics lost to, you know, teams like that too this year. So, you know, I mean, I guess it just happens. It's a long NBA season, you know. So that's what I'm trying to get at is I think we're being a little too overreacting with Milwaukee. You know, I think Milwaukee's going to be fine when it comes to the playoff time. But then again, it's going to be, you know, in that second round because I feel like Milwaukee's going to get out of the first round this year. They're not going to get bounced in the first round like they did last year. That's just not going to happen. I
No.
don't see it happening back to back years. So I got the Bucks heading into the, you know, second round, and if they play Cleveland, if the standings end like this, I see Milwaukee going to the Eastern Conference Final. That's a walk for them. You know, if they
Hmm.
play Indiana, I feel like they'll beat them, and I don't see Indiana beating them in a 7 game series. They'll beat Cleveland, you know, or whoever they play, you know, if they play Miami or if they play Orlando, however that ends up, you know. But it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting to see. You know, I feel like Milwaukee's gonna be there.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think these next couple games too are going to be they got Charlotte twice, Chicago, Clippers, Golden State Lakers, Clippers again, Sacramento. But these next three games could be good like let's get our team's defense and offense going. You got three kind of easier games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important for them to get that chemistry going, get that system in place, all that stuff before the playoffs. I still think Doc is going to ruin it somehow in the playoffs, but at least they can look better going into the playoffs. I'm with you. I don't think they get bounced in the first round.
No. You know, and do you think like we kind of talked about, you know, how the Western Conference those last four seedings, you think that's how it's going to be in the East? Like, you know, is Boston, you know, is Miami going to be like, oh yeah, we want to play Boston first round,
Oh
you know,
man,
and drop to the 8 seed just to play the Celtics?
maybe I don't
You
know.
know what I'm saying? Like that would just be
Yeah.
insane. You know, like do you think like, okay, no, we want to play Cleveland first round, or you know, Milwaukee's thinking, you know, hey, maybe we want to play Philly if they don't have Embiid, or you know what I'm
You
saying?
know what?
Like,
Yeah. What's funny is with the playing game, it's harder for the top two teams to do this, right? Because
true.
because the top, the four teams that play for the play-in, the Heat can finish seventh or they could finish eighth, basically, right? They just got to
Right.
win one of those two games. So if you're Boston, you're like, man, we don't want to play the Heat. You have no idea where the Heat's going to finish one or
Right.
two until the
Right.
play-in tournament's over. So it's actually harder for teams with the play-in uh to uh
Well,
to
that's what I was
to
saying as far as
yeah.
like if you're the Clippers in the West, I think you want to play, I think you want to be that number one seed just for that reason alone. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're the Clippers, you wouldn't want to play, the Pelicans first round.
Yeah, but you could potentially get the Lakers or the Warriors.
True, but I don't know. I think the Clippers are better than them.
Well, no, I do too, but it's still like, I mean, are you going to bet against LeBron James in one series? Like, it's hard.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, come on. I mean, I'm not a big LeBron guy, but I can admit the dude's awesome. Like, are you going to be like, yeah,
Right.
I'm confident we're
No,
going to be, or
that's true. Yeah.
Steph Curry,
First
like just
round.
one
Yeah.
series? Yeah, do you really want to play that? So it's almost like the
So
three
if you're the
seed.
Clippers, you're saying should you just stay the fourth seed?
I think you should try go three. I'd go three. That's what I would try to do.
Really?
Yeah, you get the Suns. The Suns are up and down. You can beat the Suns. I mean, like, I think Durant's kind of in the same category, but I don't like Beal's never healthy. Booker's, I don't know. If I'm the Clippers, I'm okay playing the Suns in the first round. Like
Because if it
I'm
stayed like
comfortable
this,
with that.
they'd play Sacramento,
Right, but
and then
if
they would
it's
play and then they'd play Minnesota.
right, I would want to avoid the Minnesota. I'd rather have the Thunder.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just me. So like with this whole thing with the Eastern Conference, it's like the problem with the East, you probably want to find a way to be the fourth seed and get Philadelphia without
Right.
Embiid
Right.
right now.
Right. And that's
That's
the
that
Knicks
should
right now.
right. Now the Celtics are too far ahead for that, but could you imagine the Celtics drawing the Heat in the first round?
It'll be like
Like,
Miami would try to do what they did to the Bucks last year.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it would be a tough matchup for the Celtics. So it's sort of interesting. Now the 76ers could totally fall out of that into the play-in spots, right? Like that's
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
think I
predicting
think
with them.
Philly's gonna be the 8th seed this year.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it might end up all working well for Philly, but what would stink for the Celtics if Embiid does come back like a week before the playoffs, and then you got the Embiid and Maxey in the
I
first
think
round. That
we got
you'd
Embiid's
be,
number, like
I think you'd be
whether
okay,
Embiid's
right?
there or not. I'd rather play the
Right.
Sixers than the Heat at this point.
No,
The
I'm
Heat are
with you. I'm
just
with you.
bro, and I don't
Yeah,
want to be afraid of no Miami Heat team, bro, but I'm
it's
afraid.
it's a healthy fear though. It's a respect factor. It's like we know what you guys are capable of. We would rather wait till later to play you guys. It's sort of like a healthy fear. So
I'd
it's
rather them
not
play
it's not like a
Milwaukee right away.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Let the
Yeah.
Bucks play them.
Yeah. It's funny too because I think like there's also a potential that you sweep the Heat, but you can also lose the Heat in four. It's just like
So
like
weird,
a
right?
variance with them that's kind of crazy.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Did you see Jimmy Butler's Instagram post where he's like, "It's almost that time."
Yeah, I
He
know.
was like
I know.
talking, bro. Like he's just insane, dude.
I know. I
He
know.
got no
He's
rings to
crazy.
prove it though. Been to two
Yeah, but
championships, but he can't win it.
yeah, I'll be fair to him though. In both finals, his team was a clear underdog. So
Right.
it's just like especially the one against the Lakers when Gordon Dragic was injured before the series started, and then Bam injured his shoulder after the first game. It was like, how do you expect that team to win?
Right.
Like against LeBron and AD, it's like that's hard. Okay, man. So let's hit our last point. Is there any other games you would like to talk about that happened the last couple of days? Any other NBA news you want to hit on before we?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch based on the who played last night. Uh. Oh no, the Lakers beat the Sun, or the Suns beat the Lakers. Why did I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the Lakers beat the Suns? But no, that was I thought that was a pretty interest. I thought that was a pretty good game. I feel like the Lakers, they got a long way to go, man, and I'm kind of worried for them. I don't even think they're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the thing is as much as we're talking about these chances of like these 7 through 10 seeds like
Yeah,
being spoilers. They also could mean like the Warriors and Lakers not making the playoffs.
that'd be insane.
The yeah, the Heat and Orlando Magic might not make the playoffs because all it takes is 1 or 2 games, right? And it's like the variance there is kind of cool. But yeah, the Lakers, they got to be a little bit worried right now, right? Like
Hmm.
the fact that Nurkic had 22 rebounds, it is kind of crazy when you have a team that has Anthony Davis and LeBron
Grayson
James out
Allen's
there.
been balling too. Like people been not
Yeah,
talking about Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen got the best 3-point percentage in the NBA.
yeah, yeah. He's a good
That's
fit.
that's insane.
Well, he should too, because if you're on a team with Durant, Booker, and Beal, right? And I don't think Beal played yesterday, but you should have a ton of open shots, right? Like
Yeah,
so you should have a really good like Royce O'Neal yesterday was 7 of 12, 6 of 10 from three. He had 20 points. He was a plus 22 on the floor.
I think that was a
So
bad trade to trade Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. That was just terrible. That's what hurt the Phoenix Suns. I think they needed to run that back with Chris Paul and KD because that was the initial reason why KD wanted to go to the Suns was because of Chris Paul, right? So it's
mhm.
like, man, that was a terrible, terrible move for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I am surprised that they made that trade too because they don't have the reason why if you're like the Clippers or some other team, you're not nervous about playing them is they don't have anyone to facilitate. They
Right,
don't have a real facilitator on their team now. Booker can pretend to be one when he's playing all these bad teams, but when the going gets tough, he's just not that type of player. And I'm not telling he's great not being a facilitator. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't
right,
have to be a facilitator to be good. So I kind of agree with you on the Chris Paul deal. I think if maybe they could take it back, but the thing is, it did help add depth to their team that they're using to be, like
right.
Bol last couple games have been actually pretty
Yeah, he has
solid.
been pretty solid. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, so it's one of those things. It's hard to be too harsh on them because it allowed them to make other moves to make their roster have a little bit more
just they don't
depth.
got no facilitating.
That's problem.
That's
Yep,
that's
that's
the
the
problem,
problem. Yeah,
right?
100%, 100%.
What
Okay.
did you think about Luca's performances these past couple of games since All Star break? He's been actually balling too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they lost to the Pacers though.
Well, that's the thing is like as good as Luca's been, it's the Mavericks are still out of the playoff, right? They're not out of the playoffs, like, but they're in the play-in, is what I mean. Um, I do wonder, like,
Right,
like they're just not, and part of it is Kyrie's not always playing.
right.
They're 33 and 24. What are they in their last? Do you know what they are in their last 10?
Yeah, they're 7-3.
Yeah. So they've been playing good. I really like we already talked about the trades. I like that Gafford trade. I really like
Hmm.
that one. I also like the PJ Washington pickup. I did like that they got him too. So I don't know, man. I think it could go if Luke is played at this level again. This is just a guy you don't want to meet in a playoff series
Yeah,
because
no,
he can win one for you by himself. So
right.
yeah, and I don't know.
Well,
Luke has been playing awesome though.
so since we're talking about like the bottom pack of the, um, the West and the East, who's your contenders and who's your pretenders?
Oh man. So in the West, my contenders are and I try to be like a stickler about it. I don't want to be too like what is it, forgiving.
Hmm.
So I try to be a little bit more stingy about it, but I just have the top 4 seeds as contenders right now in the West.
Everybody
So
else is pretenders.
so yeah, I just don't like it's hard for me to see the Lakers strumming up 4 straight or 3 straight series, like how inconsistent their team is. The Warriors, the same thing. I don't like the Suns don't have a facilitator. The Kings are not as good as what they were last year. So I just think it's the top 4 teams that are real contenders, and the bottom 4 or 6 teams are pretenders in the sense of like I just don't see them, you know, trying to or winning 3 straight series against these other 4 teams because that's what it would take. Like the Lakers have to, let's just say, beat the Clippers 4 times, then they have to beat the Denver Nuggets 4 times, and then they got to beat the Timberwolves 4 times. That
Sure.
is a tough ask. So I just don't see a team doing that other than those four teams on the top.
Yeah. I mean, like we saw last year, the Lakers coming out of the play-in and then going all the way to the Western Conference Finals,
Mhm.
if LeBron somehow gets to the seventh or eighth seed, could you see him potentially knocking off the Timberwolves or the Thunder in the first round? I could see that,
I
and,
can,
and
yep.
wouldn't that make the Timberwolves and the Thunder pretenders at that point?
Well, so it's the point of like, could you see the Thunder and the Timberwolves winning 3 series in a row, right? I can see that, but I also could see like a team like the Lakers upsetting them, but I couldn't see the Lakers upsetting them and then the Nuggets and then the Clippers.
Right,
It would be more surprising to me that the Lakers would upset one of those teams rather than the other way around of the like
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunders get to the Western Conference Finals or the Finals. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets did there, the Clippers. The Lakers, I would be surprised if they got to the finals. I wouldn't be surprised if they spoiled somebody's season, though.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. But you're saying for sure, like you could see the Timberwolves going to the finals, the Thunder going to the finals, the Clippers going to the finals, or the Nuggets. Like you wouldn't
Right.
be surprised if any of those four teams made it.
Correct. Correct.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I could see. You know, it really all depends on if Bradley Beal's gonna be healthy, man. Because maybe Phoenix is just trolling at this point. Because I did have Phoenix as a playoff team and to make a deep run. I also had the Mavericks earlier this year. And to be honest, like they're only what like the Mavericks, they could jump up to the fourth or fifth seed by the end of this year. Like it's really still too early to tell. There's 27 games left.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, 25 or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could see Dallas. I don't think Dallas will finish in the play-in. Um, I could possibly see Sacramento dropping into the play-in. But I could see Dallas and Phoenix as a fifth or sixth seed. So
Yeah,
I
just
don't know.
like, but
It really all depends on how Bradley Beal is too, because I feel like that's another thing that's hurting Phoenix is Bradley Beal's been, he hasn't really played.
right. No, I agree with you on that. But like, so would you like if the Suns played, let's say if again the standings are exact same, Suns play the Nuggets the first round.
Yeah, no, they're getting
It-
smacked.
okay. So if they manage to beat the Nuggets, they would get the Thunder in the second round. Do you
Right.
see them beating the Thunder? Like, I mean,
Well,
like,
if they
you know
if
what I'm
they
saying?
beat if
Like,
they beat Denver, I feel like
yeah,
if anybody beats
I
the,
don't.
the, the Nuggets, they're
Yeah,
going to the. I
yeah,
feel like you should go to the
yeah.
finals.
Right.
You know what
No,
I'm
no.
saying?
I
So,
agree with that. Right. Like that's not going to happen. But my point is like, do you see the mountain a team has to climb though? If you're finishing 5 through 8, you got to beat three of those powerhouses. I just
yeah.
cannot. Yeah, I can't see that. It's hard
No,
for
you're
me
right.
to
I'm just
envision.
I'm just saying like I mean, as much as I talk bad about Kevin Durant, that's KD
Right.
And Dallas got Luca and Kyrie. So, you know, like I said, as far as the Timberwolves and Thunder been balling and they're the first and two seeds, but for some part of me feels like the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Thunder remind me of those Utah Jazz teams with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell when they were the number one seed in the second
Sometimes.
seed.
Yep.
That's kind of how it feels sometimes. So, I'm not trying to knock off these legitimate superstars that deserve all of our respect as far as like Luca and KD because Luca's made a deep run too in the playoffs
hmm
before. I mean, I know he had Jalen Brunson, but do you think Jalen Brunson's a better player than Kyrie Irving is? And based on like Kyrie's been hurt, so can't really
hmm
say as far as how he's been playing this year. I mean, Jalen Brunson's proven himself, that he can take over, and that's why the Knicks are doing so good this year. But I
Gotcha.
mean, you compare Jalen Brunson and Kyrie. I mean, it's not really comparable. Everybody's picking Kyrie over Jalen.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like again, if Luca, let's say the Mavericks played the Timberwolves and somehow beat them, I wouldn't like that. Wouldn't shock
You
me.
wouldn't
I'd be a little
shock you,
surprised. Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I'd be a little surprised. It wouldn't shock me because of Luca. Like if Luca goes for 43
right?
points in the series and whatever, but then they have to play the Clippers in the second round. It's like it's so hard to sustain that excellence through this mountain that they have to play. So it's going to be fun to watch. But when I look at
Right,
just contenders, I think who could I see going through 3 rounds of a playoff series? And
right.
that's the Wolves, Thunder, Nuggets, Clippers,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I got for that.
All right. In the East,
I have the Celtics, the Bucks, the Knicks, and the Heat all as contenders because I'm saying that 76ers do not have Embiid. So
okay.
Celtics,
I don't
Bucks.
think Philly is a contender even with Embiid.
Okay. Okay.
You know, just
That's
based on history. You know, I
yeah,
never
that's
took the
fair.
Sixers seriously.
That's fair.
Um, I would have to say, you know, I mean, I know everybody's probably looking at the Cavaliers, you know, as a joke. Like, how are the Cavs second seed? You know, but for giving that much respect to Minnesota and OKC, I think you got to give Cleveland its respects too. You know, um, and say that they could be contenders as well.
Mm.
You know, I don't see it happening. You know, Boston's obviously coming out the East this year. I'm biased. I'm not being biased at all. But I mean, you gotta give props where it's due, man. I mean, they've been playing pretty decent. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and um, you know, they're a very good road team. You know, and in the playoffs, you need to be a good road team, and the Cavs have been getting it done this year as far as being on the road. So, I you know, I would put Cleveland a little bit more ahead of the Knicks, to be honest with you.
Oh, see, I
You
think
got
the
the Knicks
Knicks.
over Cleveland if they were to meet up.
Yeah, remember last year's playoffs?
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Like
I mean, but
they
they're
like
pretty much they're. I mean, they're still. I mean, 3 games different. I mean, it's pretty still even. But you know, I don't know. If Cleveland got Orlando or Indiana, you know, the Pacers, you don't think Cleveland's winning those games, winning that series?
yeah, I don't. If they got, I think they could beat Orlando. I think the Pacers are going to cause some team in the first round a lot of trouble because of the way they score the basketball.
Sure.
So I actually like the Pacers. But we know that the Heat will probably be in there, and
Right.
my thing is like I don't see the Cavs beating the Heat.
No, that's
And
true.
so like okay, so if the Cavs go up against
I think
the
Miami's gonna finish fifth when it's all done.
okay,
I think Miami's gonna be playing New York first round.
okay,
You
and that'd be
know,
an interesting
so
series, right?
yeah,
Right.
I don't see it ending like this unless Miami really just says, "No, we want Cleveland first round," and they deliberately want to be the seventh seed.
Right,
You
right.
know, but
And
Philly's gonna
yeah,
drop down. Philly's gonna probably it's gonna be. I think Cleveland might face either Philly or Orlando. You know, so if Cleveland plays the Sixers, I think they could beat the Sixers, especially if Embiid's out.
yeah, I agree with that. Yep,
Yeah,
I agree with
so
that. So, but then it's like, could I see Cleveland beating both Milwaukee and the Celtics? Or
no.
so that's why I kind of have them as pretenders because like I have to in my own mind believe that they could beat these teams consecutively, right? Like so
Right,
if Cleveland goes up against Miami, yeah, they'd probably beat Miami. Maybe they don't, but I could see them beating that. But then they got the Milwaukee Bucks. Do I see them beating Miami and the Bucks? Okay, well, if they get over that hump, now they got the Celtics. It's like, do I see them getting over that? Not at all, right? That's
right.
again a big mountain for them to climb. So so that's my thought process is like when I think of a contender, I have to really feel like they can go through 3 series to get to the finals, and Cleveland is not one of those teams because I watched them last year. They're basically the same team, and
Right.
they got you know destroyed by the Knicks in the first round. So that's why I don't have them there, and I have like the Celtics, Bucks, Knicks, and the Heat there because I really like what I see
Yeah,
from
they
the
lost to
Knicks.
Philly. They lost to Philly twice, and that's without Embiid in the lineup. So
Right,
Philly's beaten them twice.
correct.
So you know, but again, you know, like it's gonna be. Uh, is that my alarm?
I don't hear anything.
What's that?
Oh, he's got to check on his alarm. Okay. While he's
Yeah.
doing that, I will just continue to talk about what we're talking about.
Down here, please.
And the other thing is with the
Oh,
Cavaliers,
sorry guys. I thought there was a fire. I was like, what's going on? Why is my smoke alarm going off? Thought Enzo did something.
it's because of your hot take there. No,
Right.
not that you had a hot take.
No, it
But
is a
the other
hot take. It's a
the other
hot
thing I
take. We
th
gotta we
say
gotta we
though,
gotta respect Cleveland, man. They're 36. Wait, what's their record? They're
37 and
37 and
19.
19.
So here's my other theory that I'm going off of too, with the Cavs, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Utah with Donovan Mitchell was a really good regular season team
Right.
that fell apart in the playoffs, right? They could never
Correct.
get right. I just think like game to game, it's hard to play a team like or a player like Donovan Mitchell, but when you get into a series, it's easier to prep for him game to game, if that makes sense. So it's just a working theory I have. But I want to see a Donovan Mitchell led team to be able to do this because he is clearly right now the leader of that team.
Right.
The way his stats are going, so I want to see him do it before I want to give him credit because like you were talking about Embiid, what has Embiid done to show us that he can be a true contender? Well, what has Mitchell done,
Well,
right? Like, and if he,
it's not necessarily Embiid. Like I trust in Embiid. I'm just saying like the Sixers in general. They just never. I don't feel like they got a really great team around Embiid, to be honest with you.
okay, gotcha,
Whereas
gotcha.
Cleveland is more like, I don't know. I just feel like they're hungry, but um again, I guess it's just, because we don't really talk about, Cleveland and their roster like that, so they're very like low key, and
Hmm.
those
Right.
teams, even with the Utah Jazz, like nobody really talked about the Utah Jazz all those times with the Donovan Mitchells here, and I stated that, based on the Western comparing the Timberwolves and the Thunder, compared to those Utah Jazz teams, but the West is a totally different animal.
It is, isn't it?
Where
It's crazy.
there's
Yeah.
everybody in the West is big. Like in the East, there's really not that many teams that you're really afraid of, other than the Bucks. And thanks, Mom, for my Is this a roast beef sandwich?
No burger.
Oh, a burger again, guys.
So thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
You're gonna have to post that on TikTok again.
And she gave me onion rings too.
Let's go. Let's go.
So yeah,
Well,
that's pretty good. But what I'm saying is like the Bucks have been struggling. I mean, I know we're like I've even stated like it's an overreaction. It's a long season, but like you don't think like Cleveland could beat the Knicks, the Cleveland could beat the Pacers, the Cleveland could beat Philly, Cleveland could beat Orlando, Miami, in that first round, but they could get to the Eastern Conference. They could. There's that could, because if Milwaukee plays, I mean Milwaukee lost to the Grizzlies.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
it's
So
hard,
it's just like
right?
I don't know.
I would,
Not Doc. I mean, the Bucks lost to the 8th seeded Heat last year,
yeah,
so it's like I could see Cleveland. I'm not saying Cleveland could beat Boston. I'm not saying that by any means, but I'm just saying they could get to the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, it's an easier road to be in the East than it is obviously the West.
yeah. I
I guess that's
agree
what
with
my
that
take
part of it.
is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that part. It's easier in the East for sure. But
Mm,
what I would tell you
goodness.
is just I don't know. It's a little bit hard for me to believe. I believe they could win a series. I don't see them winning 2 to 3 series. I just think it's a hard ask. Um, considering the best player on the court will probably be on the other team
Correct.
at least 2 out of those 3 series, and that's also a challenge, right?
Right.
So
But this is what I'm saying as far as standings matter. Like I was saying about the Western, I think if Cleveland wants to make a deep run, they got to be the second seed. If they fall down anymore, I mean, I know they're only a game away from Milwaukee. If Milwaukee finishes second, Cleveland finishes third or fourth, then I can see Cleveland getting bounced, in the second round or the first round if they fall, but because it's not like a for sure that they're going to get the second seed locked, But if Cleveland finishes
correct.
the season as the second seed, they have a good enough chance, I think, to get to that Eastern Conference Finals appearance.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see because, like, again, if they play Bucks in the second round, I just don't see them. Well, maybe Doc Rivers will give them the
That's what I'm saying. We
advantage.
already have
Yeah,
doubt. I mean, so many people are having doubts with the Bucks already. So why
yeah,
couldn't they beat the Bucks?
yeah.
You know,
It's
I mean,
Giannis is
yeah, we
just
don't.
a beast.
We obviously are gonna say, the Bucks are gonna do it, but I don't know, man. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, speaking about anything happening, I
Mm.
gotta go.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, and you gotta eat.
All right, you
Thanks.
guys.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening and thank you all for joining us. We had a couple people coming in and out of YouTube. So thanks so much for sticking around for a little bit. If you come on to our podcast, feel free to add to the conversation. We also want you guys, if you're interested, to go ahead to like our video, subscribe to the channel, check us out on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. We post clips every now and then on those platforms. Also, follow my guy Soury Lemon, my guy Isaac on Soury Lemon on Twitch and Twitter as well. Anything else, Isaac?
That should be it.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Isaac, for joining me. Thank you all for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.